A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Welcome to the Salat program. We have now reached part 8 of our Salat. Today I will be talking about Takbiratul Ihram. So we've discussed the Azan, the Aqamat, the Niyat, and how the Niyat should be prior to starting the Salat. And now we will discuss when we start the Salat. So the Salat starts with Takbiratul Ihram. This is the first pillar of Salat. So if you miss this pillar, then your Salat will be invalid. So if you forget to say the word Allahu Akbar, this is the Takbiratul Ihram, then your prayer is no longer valid. This is an important aspect of Salat that we should understand, and we should appreciate why this sentence the Salat starts with. What gravity does this word Allahu Akbar carry? Unfortunately, in this day and age, Allahu Akbar is used by people that do not believe in Allah. So they say Allahu Akbar, but what they are doing with this word, or the actions that they are doing with this word, is insulting the sentence itself, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar is an azim word, it's a great sentence. It has a lot of spiritual effects on the human being. It has a lot of impacts that when we say Allahu Akbar, it signifies something. And just like when we say the talbiyah in Hajj, Allah labbaik, Allahumma labbaik, and once we say the talbiyah, then a lot of halal or haram start for us. For example, in Hajj we have some ahkamat. Once we have said the talbiyah, Allahumma labbaik, so once we've said that word, then a lot of things become prescribed on us, and a lot of things are not allowed for us to do. The same applies for this Takbiratul Ihram. Once we say Allahu Akbar, then we have some haram and halal actions that we have to then avoid and do. For example, once it started, we cannot leave the namaz. Then we have to finish the namaz till the end. So this is like one of those rules. So Allahu Akbar is a word which has a lot of meanings. The Prophet of Islam sallallahu alaihi wasallam says that our religion has a face. Everything has a face. Just like our body has a face which is here, so does our religion. And the face of our religion is the religion Islam. And in Islam, the face is Salat. So the face of our Islam is Salat. Then Salat itself has a face. Now the face of Salat has some points. Now Allahu Akbar is the nose or the eyes of the Salat. So this is the basis of what Allahu Akbar generally means. Now when you start Allahu Akbar, as I said, this is the first part and the first pillar, rukun of Salat. But prior to saying Allahu Akbar, we have some other Allahu Akbars that are mustahab to say. So in total, you should say 7 Allahu Akbars, 6 quietly, and then the last one should be with the niyyah of Takbiratul Ihram. So quietly you should do Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar 6 times, and then the final one, Allahu Akbar. So this is how it is recommended to read the Salat, and saying 7 times has a lot of spiritual benefit. As we are discussing, Salat is, the purpose of Salat is to gain proximity to Allah, to reach the Mi'raj, so that we receive the proximity of our Creator. Allahu Akbar helps us in reaching that proximity, because Allahu Akbar opens the veils between us and our Creator. For example, when Prophet of Islam traveled, when he went for Mi'raj, every time he reached the sky, so the first asman, the first heaven, and to see the first heaven, he would say the Takbiratul Ihram. He would say Allahu Akbar. Once he said Allahu Akbar, the doors of the seventh heaven, the first heaven would open and he would enter. Then when he reached the second stage and the second heavens, and again he would say Takbiratul Ihram, Allahu Akbar, and again the doors of that heaven would open. And he continued this till the seventh heaven, and he reached the Arsh of Allah. And we discussed about the Miraj in our previous parts. So this Allahu Akbar is a wasila, is a source, is a way to open those doors for those seven heavens. So when we start our salat, when we say 7 times Allahu Akbar, it is opening the doors for us to reach the proximity of Allah. And that is why it is a pillar in salat. So if we do not say this Allahu Akbar, this Takbiratul Ihram, then what happens is that the salat will not be able to ascend. So you could say this is also a key to open the doors of each heaven that we have to cross to reach the Arsh of Allah, the proximity of Allah. And so moving on, what else does this Takbiratul Ihram do? So if you recite 7 times Takbiratul Ihram, this then compensates for the Allahu Akbar that we have to say in our salat. So if we missed it or forgotten it, then the 7 times which we have said in the beginning of the salat will compensate for that. And we have this riwayat from Imam Raza alayhi salam, who tells us that if we forget our Allahu Akbars during the salat, then the 7 that we have said in the beginning compensates this. And what is this? How was this 7 takbir given to us? How did we place it in our salat? We have a riwayat from our 5th Imam alayhi salam, giving an account of Imam Hussein, his grandfather, where Imam Hussein in his childhood, or when he was a toddler, he didn't speak. And the Prophet of Islam sallallahu alaihi wasallam was really worried that his grandson is not speaking. And then one time Rasulullah Khuda was standing for salat, to perform the salat. So he said, and then Imam Hussein also came near him and stood next to him while he was still a toddler, and to perform the salat with the Prophet of Islam. So Prophet of Islam said Allahu Akbar, waiting for his grandson to say Allahu Akbar, but Imam Hussein stayed quiet. And then again the Prophet of Islam said Allahu Akbar. So the second time he said, and again Imam Hussein was silent. And it continued till the 7th Allahu Akbar. When the 7th Allahu Akbar, the Prophet of Islam said the Takbiratul Ihram, and then Imam Hussein said Allahu Akbar. And when Imam Hussein said Allahu Akbar, the angel Jibreel, we say in Islam, descended from the heavens towards Rasulullah Khuda and revealed to him that in Salat, our Creator prefers 7 Allahu Akbars. And this was because of the sake of Imam Hussein that we have been given this gift of saying 7 Allahu Akbars, which enables, as I said, to reach the proximity of Allah by opening the doors of each heaven or each asman, the skies that we have to travel before we reach the Arsh of Allah. And so this is a blessing, a gift given by Imam Hussein for him staying silent while reading his salat with Rasulullah Khuda sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So why does namaz start with takbir? One reason I gave was because of the account of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and another reason is that the Prophet of Islam, we have a hadith from our ulama quote that Prophet of Islam said everything, the salat, the Takbiratul Ihram that we say is of very importance value. It has a value. Now the value of Takbiratul, one takbir is equivalent to 60,000 Hajj. So when you say Allahu Akbar, its equivalency Yani its equivalency is to 60,000 mustahab, hajj and umrah. So this is so you can now understand and appreciate why salat is more important than hajj. As I explained in the previous parts, that whatever is in this world is not as important as hajj. In the eyes of Allah, hajj is more important than anything that we find in this world. So our relationships, our businesses, our other ibadats, nothing is more important to Allah than hajj. But what is more important than hajj is salat. Now, to understand how salat is important, this also gives us a sign. When we say takbiratul ihram, yani just that Allahu Akbar, one time we say Allahu Akbar, it is equivalent to 60,000 hajj and umrah. So those that are not reading salat, they are depriving themselves of such a blessing, such a gift, that we will not be able to compensate for that after death. Therefore, brothers and sisters, take this salat as something part of our life, a compulsory part, that we must perform it, we must respect it, and we must read it on its respected time, because the value of salat, as we are now, it's unfolding in front of our eyes, is very, very important. Just one part, just one sentence, which is the start of the salat, is equal to 60,000 times higher than hajj and mustahab, hajj and umrah. So this should give us an idea of what this salat is. Now, how can we indoctrinate, how can we make this part of our life, the takbiratul ihram? We must make it part of our life by saying it a lot. By saying it a lot, by saying it in our salat, by saying it also ghayr salat. So without salat, we should also say Allahu Akbar. Unfortunately, the trend we have now in this dunya is we don't say Allahu Akbar. Rasul Khuda would always use Allahu Akbar for many instances. When he was surprised, he would say Allahu Akbar. When he was sad, he would say Allahu Akbar. When he was happy, he would say Allahu Akbar. When he would hear about something which was strange, he would say Allahu Akbar. When he went to war, he would say Allahu Akbar. When he defeated the Meccans and the conquest of Mecca, he said Allahu Akbar. So Rasul Khuda in his life, from his sunnah and seerah and the Ahlul Bayt seerah, we see that they always said Allahu Akbar in many instances. But what do we do in our life? How do we use words? When we are surprised, we say, oh wow. Rather than we should be saying Allahu Akbar. This is better than the word oh wow. But because we are so much ingrained in this culture, we are so much trapped by the Western culture, that we have forgotten our Creator, our Lord. We forgot His name, and we say things like, wow. We say, what a surprise. Or if there's something shocking, we say bloody hell, for example. And there are more other words which I cannot say from my tongue, but you would know, dear brothers and sisters, those words that are used by some of us, where we say, if something happens, we say the S word or the F word in those instances. But Allah says, and the Rasul, from our Prophet's Sirat, we see that they used Allah's word for any surprise or shock or any change in circumstances. They would always say Allahu Akbar, because as we can see, when we say Allahu Akbar, it is equivalent to 60,000 Hajj and Umrah, Mustahab Hajj and Umrah. But this will also, Allahu Akbar helps us in our dying bed. So when we are about to depart, this word also helps us, just like the azan and the aqamat, that when if we recite it loudly in every wajib prayers, the same applies for Allahu Akbar. But this only happens if we live the way we should be living. There's a saying, the way you live is the way you will die. So the way we live is the way we'll die. So for example, if we prefer to go to we like to live in a Western country. we like to eat Western food. We like to watch Western movies, or say Eastern movies, whichever culture you prefer. We like to eat Western or Eastern food, Chinese food or Western food, without realizing what we're doing. We like to go to holidays which are not suitable holidays for us. But we prefer to go, when we die, we want to be in heaven. When we die, we want to be in Jannat Firdaus, the paradise of Firdaus. But our life has not been related to Jannat Firdaus. So the way we've been living, it's not possible that we would then die as a believer and would reach heaven straight away. No. The way you live is the way you die. If you live a kuffar's life, an infidel's life, then we will die as an infidel, and our position in the akhirat will be like an infidel. Hence, we will not be able to utilize this Allahu Akbar in our last part of our life, because we did not utilize it in our life. We didn't pray 5 times pray that is prescribed. So if we were not paying attention to our salat, then how can we expect this salat to help us in our dying bed? How can we expect this Allahu Akbar Takbiratul Ihram to help us in our dying bed? As I said, the way you live is the way you die. Now, how many times do we say this takbir in a day? I've calculated that if we read this takbir in our salat and the tasbih Hazrat Fatima Zahra, it accumulates to approximately 360 times. Now, just to calculate how much sawab, meaning merit, we gain from saying Allahu Akbar, I will give you a calculation so that you can understand how much sawab we are getting by just saying Allahu Akbar. As I said, one Allahu Akbar that we say is equivalent to 60,000 Hajj and Umrah. So if we say 360 times in a day Allahu Akbar, then times that by 60,000. So if you times it by 60,000, you would gain 21,600,000 mustahab Hajj and Umrah sawab. So just in one day you can see how much sawab we are getting by saying Allahu Akbar. Now I'll break it down how it accounts to 360 Allahu Akbars. For example, when we start our azan, we say 6 times Allahu Akbar, 4 times in the beginning of azan, then twice when we're ending the azan. So that is 6. Now this 6 times we say, this 6 Allahu Akbars we say 5 times because we have 5 prayers. So 6 times 5 is 30. So this is 30 Allahu Akbars just for azan in one day. Then we have the Aqamat. In the Aqamat we say 4 takbirs, 2 in the beginning, 2 in the end. And again we read 5 namaz, so 5 times 4 is 20. So for the Aqamat, for the azan it's 30 in a day, for the Aqamat is 20 in a day. And then when we start if we read now the 6 takbir iftitah, which I said 6 you read before saying the salat, and then the last one is takbiratul ihram, Allahu Akbar. So if you say that 6 times in one salat, and there are 5 salats, 6 times 5 will be 30. And then the salat itself, when we read the 5 salat, the 5 wajib prayers, again we say takbiratul ihram, that's 5 times, so that will be 5 in a day. And as on you keep adding this on, I will not waste more time in this. Then we read the tasbih Hazrat Fatima Zahra. In each tasbih we read 34 times Allahu Akbar, and times it by 5 because there are 5 prayers, then it will be 170. So if you add all of that together that would be 360 times that we say Allahu Akbar. So those that commit sins, and we all commit sins, if we persistently, consistently say Allahu Akbar, then our good deeds will be higher than our bad deeds, i.e. our sins. And so when we reach the day of judgment, when the scales are weighed, the scales of good deeds will be heavier than of the bad deeds. And but if someone does not say Allahu Akbar and does not recite Allahu Akbar or does not perform the salat, then how will we compensate for our sins? How will we make the scales of good and bad to be different from one another? So the good deeds should be heavier than the bad deeds. And Allahu Akbar is one way is of gaining more good deeds. As I've said, that one Allahu Akbar is equivalent to 60,000 Hajj and Umrah, Mustahab Hajj and Umrah. So how do we appreciate the importance of this sentence? So appreciating the importance of this sentence. Now I would like, dear brothers and sisters, I would like to give you some examples of how we can appreciate what this Allahu Akbar should mean in our life. And the only way to do this is by showing how this worked in our Prophet's life, in our Aimma's life. So this sentence is so important that to appreciate this, we can see from our Prophet of Islam's life. When he first came into this dunya, so when he was born into this dunya, the first thing he said was Allahu Akbar. And also when we come into this dunya, we also hear the first sentence that we hear is Allahu Akbar in our ears for the azan and for the aqamat. And when we leave also from this dunya, the last thing that is said while we are being put into the grave is Allahu Akbar. So this should give a bit of an idea of what this takbir means. Unfortunately, in this day and age, terrorists are using such a holy word, such a spiritual word in the wrong context. So us Muslims should use it in the right context to make the scales of appreciating this word and giving the respect that this word needs. Now, when Hazrat Fatima Zahra was asked the proposal of Imam Ali for marriage, and when she was silent, her silence meant that she agreed to marry Imam Ali alayhi salam, then Rasulullah Khuda also said Allahu Akbar. He said, your silence signifies that you have accepted this proposal, and he said Allahu Akbar. So when his daughter accepted Imam Ali as her husband to marry, a Prophet of Islam said Allahu Akbar. So in an event, in a happy event, in a good news event, Prophet would say Allahu Akbar. As I said, when the Muslims and Rasulullah conquered Mecca and they entered the Kaaba, entered Mecca and the Haram Sharif, then they said Allahu Akbar. And all the Muslims, after hearing the Prophet and Imam Ali saying Allahu Akbar, they all also said Allahu Akbar. When Imam Ali was alayhi salam was fighting with the kuffar, the infidels of Mecca, and he was showing his valor when he was fighting, even then all Rasulullah Khuda started saying Allahu Akbar, and all the Muslims also looking at Imam Ali fighting and attacking like a lion on the infidels, on the enemies of Islam, they were saying Allahu Akbar. So in different situations, Prophet of Islam uses the word Allahu Akbar, and this should give us an idea. For example, in the Battle of Badr, Rasulullah Khuda wanted one specific enemy of Islam to be killed, and when Imam Ali killed him and sent him to hell, the Prophet of Islam said Allahu Akbar. Again, different situations, different scenarios, Rasulullah Khuda and the Aimma use Allahu Akbar as a spiritual word, as an astonishing word to praise Allah in different circumstances. Also, when Prophet Adam left this dunya, when all the angels descended to read the namaz jamaat, the death prayer, the death salat, so they also said 5 times takbir, and that is why we have 5 takbir in our aqamat, in the death prayer. So try, dear brothers and sisters, try to say this takbir as much as you can in the salat and ghayr salat, in other circumstances as well. For example, when you go to the graves of Aimai Tahirin, to the Zaris, so quietly say Allahu Akbar. When you see the Zari, when you see the Zari of Aba Abdullah al-Hussein, say Allahu Akbar. When you see the Zari of Imam Raza alayhi salam, say Allahu Akbar quietly. When you see Jannatul Baqi and you see the graves of Aimai Tahirin over there, say Allahu Akbar. This word is of utmost importance. Now, what does it mean by saying Allahu Akbar? What does it mean? What does it signify when we say this word? So I would like to share that with you, brothers and sisters, of what it means. For example, Imam Khomeini says when we recommends that when we say Allahu Akbar, we should raise our hands. The raising of hands means that it should signify that you're pushing everything away from your face. For example, if you're trying to walk a path, and while you're walking that path, you have bushes in front of you, then you use your hands to clear your way. So the same applies for salat. When you raise your hands and say Allahu Akbar, you're pushing all those things that are obstructing you from you and your Creator, from you and your Allah. So by moving your hand like this, you're pushing everything on the back and you're moving forward towards your Allah, i.e. is giving you a way to move to your Creator. So this is one meaning of Allahu Akbar. So when you raise your hands and say Allahu Akbar, you're saying to the world, O dunya, you are behind me and I'm going to the proximity of my Allah. And you should also think that when you say Allahu Akbar. So say, do not speed this up. Do not try to say Allahu Akbar very quickly. Say it with respect. Say it with thought, with tafakkur, with thinking of why you're doing Allahu Akbar. So when you say Allahu Akbar, so you should end it with Akbar towards your ears, and the hand should be facing towards the Qibla when you're reading the Salat. So when you say Allahu Akbar, this should be facing the Qibla, and you should not be moving your body. You should be standing straight without any motion, and then say Allahu Akbar. When you say that with the appreciation of what you're saying, this will really help you to gain the khushu and khuzu in the salat itself, because this is the start of the salat. If you start the salat with a proper takbiratul ihram, then it will help you ascend towards Allah's proximity. Also, raising your hand means also signifies, Imam Khomeini says, that you're surrendering yourself to Allah. Just like when the police comes and says, hands up, we raise our hands that we're not doing any crime. The same applies for Allah. Allah, we don't want to do any sins. Here are my hands. Grab my hands and pull me up from this world, this dunya of sin, this dunya of being far from your proximity. So this is also another way of looking at why we say Allahu Akbar. And this should be in your head when you say this in your salat, that, oh Allah, I'm raising my hands from whatever is in this dunya, the problems I have, whatever there is that is making me become a worldly person. I'm raising my hands from that. Now you take my hand. This is my hand I'm giving to you. And when you give your hand to Allah, Allah takes your hand, because Allah is not a stingy Allah. He's not a bakhil Khuda. He's not a stingy creator. He's a merciful, generous creator. He's a kind creator, and He will take your hand and He will pull you out from the pits of hell, from whatever pit you're stuck. He will give His hand and pull you out from there. Now, just some questions about Takbiratul Ihram, some ahkama, some rulings on Takbiratul Ihram. For example, as I said, if you forget to recite Takbiratul Ihram, then your salat is batil, meaning it is invalid, and you have to restart your salat again. If, for example, you accidentally say 2 Takbiratul Ihram, then your salat is also batil, unless it was unintentionally done. Then you can continue reading your salat. Women can also say Allahu Akbar by raising their hands, and it is recommended for them as well. And when you say those 7 takbeers, 6 should be the takbir iftitah, the starting takbeers. It should not be with the niyat of takbiratul ihram. Takbiratul ihram is just one Allahu Akbar. So 6 times you say Allahu Akbar with a different niyat, and the last one, the 7th one, you say with the niyat of takbiratul ihram, and then your salat starts. So I think I've cleared most of what I had to say about this part of the salat. As I said, this is the first part of the salat, the first rukn, i.e. the first pillar, the first base of what the salat starts with. If you start your salat without the takbir, then that salat is not valid, and I've repeated this several times in this program. And do I have anything else to tell you, brothers and sisters, about takbiratul ihram? I think I don't have anything else to tell you, and I also think we are running out of time. Just to summarize and end the program with this, that brothers and sisters, if you are committing sins and you are trapped in the world of sin, and your dunya is pushing you towards that, at least minimum, do perform your salat as much as you can, because this salat will then eventually bring you out from the world of sins into the world of being pious and being a good person and obeying Allah. I know it is hard. I know it is not easy, because we are being attacked by 2 things. One is nafs ammara, our lower self, our desires, our lust, and then the Iblis himself. So these 2 things have come together to attack us. So we need to get help from our salat, which is our friend, which is our support, and which pushes away these enemies that are trying to attack us and make us move away from the right path. Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Inshallah, I will see you in the next part. The next program will be about the A'udhu Billahi Minash Shaitanir Rajeem and the word Bismillahir Rahman and the sentence Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. We will discuss these 2 in the next part. Assalamu alaikum